Welcome back to DragonHeir. We're going to talk about all these wild heroes, how I think you should gear them, and how they're actually functioning. The centerpiece to any wild team is honestly this girl right here, Flora. Flora is insane, will do crazy damage, and then if you're able to get her unique legendary artifact, it's monstrous. So I was doing a lot of testing today. I'm starting to do an artifact tier list. So I'm putting all the artifacts here. I'm testing them out slowly. So I'm not gonna be able to give you a tier list right away. Maybe I'll really hit this hard tomorrow and be able to get you one for the rares and the epics, and then I'll be able to test out the legendaries in more depth like I'm doing right now. This one here for Flora, at level 3, it's increasing her overall damage by 60%. It's so wild, 1.3 million with 2 wild heroes. With the exclusive, that jumps up to 2 million. So it goes 1.3 million, 2 million with her exclusive at level 3. It's not even maxed out. And what it does is it procs her little whelp that she has. Whenever anybody on the team does a wild, it will automatically attack. Here, it doesn't matter if your wild proc is successful or not. It needs to be successful without this for her to be able to hit with that dragon. But with this artifact, it doesn't matter if it's successful or not. This thing is so broken for her and she is so amazing, but you do need other wild heroes. She's got a great lead over here. Anytime an ally launches a successful wild, the familiar will launch a fireball at the ally. Current target damage, dealing fire damage. Now this can crit. The one with her, the fire pillar thing right there is derivative damage. It can't crit, but you see how much of an increase. A 60% overall increase for her is massive. And the reason why we're talking about wild heroes, because we're going over all the different groups of heroes there are out there. But if you haven't looked on the meters here for like crazy damage, you're gonna see a lot of wild heroes. We've already done a video on this one, Total Non, and how amazing this epic is, how much damage this epic does. And you can see that they've got an artifact that all ranged heroes get additional damage on her. That's fantastic to do. And then on this one, he's got the artifact that I've been testing out on everybody. You can see the numbers on the sheet, how this increases them. But unfortunately, I've only got this at level 1, 10%, because I don't have any, I need to get some stuff to level up artifacts on the test server so I can level them up. So he's not really getting a great bonus. But the reason why this is on him, this casts 30% additional damage for him upon a successful wild. Well, when he's with a lot of wild people, his success rate to do wild keeps going up to 100%. He's gonna be at 100% chance to proc wild on this. So it's gonna go up to 120% damage, 120% damage. But with this on, it's gonna be 150% damage every single time. So that's why you would put it on him, because he has the highest success rate for wild, and he does great damage. I like Felicity. It's interesting that Felicity can be with any team. It doesn't have to be a wild team. She does have a 50% chance to proc wild here, and multiple times. It can trigger up to 3 times back to back. This can proc wild as well, but her passive here doesn't work with anyone else. And I tested this. I had Sutha, who does multiple basic attacks on all her moves and critical hits. I had her at 100% chance to crit hit. I read this as whenever a basic hit or battle skill triggers a critical hit, it increases her ultimate. It doesn't say when her basic attack or battle skill triggers a critical hit, it increases her ultimate, but that's what's happening. It's only her. So you'll see her fire, and I had her at 100% crit, of course, for all the testing we're doing. And then you'll see it go up by 5% for her ultimate. The way I read it though, is that anybody could crit and do that. And I thought it would be fantastic. So while I like this girl, I don't think she's amazing, but of course she's amazing in a wild team, but she's also kind of good by herself because there's nothing that we need from the wild. She's helping out other wild people, but there's nothing that the wild people are helping her out with, except for the pillar, which this is Flora, right? Except for Flora's ultimate here that does this fire whirlpool, and then the target takes additional derivative fire damage from wild procs. So this is what's nuts with her when a wild team, and then getting all that additional damage from this passive right here whenever you proc a wild, and she's a beast. And since she has this exclusive, lots of attack here, this exclusive that it doesn't matter, right? She'll trigger this henchman upon successful wild or unsuccessful wild. I like how Felicity, this artifact on, this is the one that does the decreased defense. Anybody with the ultimate ability that hits multiple times, you get a chance every time you hit with this. And I think she hits 3 times with her ultimate, so you're pretty much always gonna get this up. Same thing with the epic one. It's upon each hit. So I have mine on Varash, who does AoE to the whole entire board, but he hits multiple times with those AoEs. So it always gets up on someone. So that's really nice to have there. With a lot of these wild heroes, I was using the Ring of Scarlet Sorcerer to see what the increase in damage would be. But for him, with a wild ally, making sure that he can get up to that 100% chance to always proc wild when he does his 2 moves, he only went up to 716,000. And then with this, he only went up to 758,000. Because then he's only, it takes a little while for him to get to a 100% success rate. Whenever he procs wild, you get 10% additional damage. That's the other thing too. I'm using a level 1 ring. So obviously if we took this up to max level, 30% additional damage, this would increase his overall damage by, 20 more percent than what we're getting here. We're only getting 10%. So a great accessory for anybody who procs wild a lot. So the numbers here, you got to remember, only a level 1. I know it doesn't look good, but it's actually, I'm ranking it as an S-class artifact for what it is. I think it's very good. This obviously is SS. I like using S, SS, A, B because there are some things that are still really amazing, but then there are things that are just like crazy amazing, and you need to put them at like the OP absurd category. And this is it, because this is again only at a level 3 and it's increasing her damage by 60%. One of the teams I was running was kind of like a free-to-play team if you were lucky enough to get Flora, because again, she's like the real centerpiece of any of these wild teams. So if you had Flora with Netta and then also Erich, which we get Erich for free, then that's a pretty damn good wild team, and you just bring in some support to go with them. I mean, that was doing really good numbers for me at level 90 with just normal epic gear. They were doing great numbers against the Vortex boss. But here are all the numbers. If you're curious to come and see this, come check this out. I'm also doing the artifact tier list for this. I know I'm not showing you actually playing these heroes, but you don't need to. You can just see the numbers right here. The numbers say everything for you. If you have these heroes, obviously you would bring in Total Nanan. We've seen her already as top over there. If you had Felicity and Flora and Erich, you would bring them in with the support to keep them alive. But if you don't have them, don't bring in Thea. I don't think she's even worth it. You can see here with one wild ally, she does some damage. You could bring her in, but I'm pretty sure if you have her, you're going to have Netta. So just bring in Netta. She has a much higher percentage proc rate. She does a little bit less damage, it looks like, but it's worth to have that higher proc rate for everybody else on your team. Looks like it's a little bit higher than hers, but could be variations. You got to remember there's a lot of variation in the damage I'm doing with testing here because they proc wild. So at a 30% chance or even a 60% chance for her to proc wild, the numbers here are going to be a little bit different every time I run. With other people with a 100% chance to crit rate, this is always going to be the same. The same gear I run through with him, it will always, every time for 5 minutes with a test dummy, be 788,000. Exactly, 581. But with here, with these wild procs, since they have different chances, especially like Felicity, she's got a different chance to get that rolling. That skill can do 50% to go again up to 3 times. It can be different numbers. And then she can proc wild at a 30% rate on her ultimate. So that could change her numbers as well. I think her numbers for Felicity are okay, but I think they could be more. I don't know. I think she's strong. I do. But I feel like if I'm going to gear her, attack speed makes it so that you do your basic attack faster. If you can do your basic attack faster with her, every time you crit with that basic attack, you're going to get that ultimate up by 5%. So that's the best in-game gear for her. I don't know how viable that is to get like super high crit rate, also super high attack speed so that you're always getting that attack speed and getting that to that ultimate faster. I'd have to test that out. And we have in-game gear to do that, so we'll do just that. We'll go with as high crit rate as we can get, with as high attack speed as we can get, and then we'll take away all that attack speed and go with attack and see what the difference is. Is it really worth going for that? Those are the things I like to test out because her damage overall, 900,000, is good. And then, of course, with the Scarlet Sorcerer, if we bring that ring up, we could get this damage up quite a bit more. But there are other heroes out there like Sutha, man. Whenever I play Sutha and she's doing this 1 million with all those attacks, and the Dauntless team is really good too. So I'm going to test them out at in-game. Eventually, once I get past doing all the level 90s of everyone and getting these numbers, I'll test out a whole Dauntless team, which I've recorded a lot of battles with Dauntless already. That's why I have these numbers against the Vortex boss. I just got to chop that video up and get it out to you guys. But I just wanted to show you this for Wild. No real numbers on total teams for you guys, but this gives you an idea of just who the real centerpiece here is with Flora, along with her artifact. And if you just have Felicity, she can actually run really well by herself in a team and she doesn't rely on other wild heroes. She just relies on herself getting that crit hit to get her ultimate up faster. Erich is pretty good. I like him. He's free. I can't argue with that. So we'll take him as a free hero. He does decent damage, does decent AoE damage. I think he's a good addition to any team. But if I'm running with Erich and Netta, just those two, maybe with Total Nanan, that would be a really good team because this one is pretty insane for a wild hero. So if you had Erich along with this Total Nanan and Netta, and then you bring in 2 support or you have some more DPS, then that could be pretty good damage. You can see the numbers here compared to other people's numbers and kind of compare, because look at all these numbers. I mean, you start looking at these numbers down here, they start going down really low. Single target damage. There's a nice one right there with 751, but you see these 372s single target damage. Look at that. Look at Lydia. Support though. It's probably a defensive hero. And 450, that's a support as well. Dauntless, 347. Amiral. Oh yeah, I remember this elf. This is that skinny rare elf. This guy is terribly bad at single target damage. So just go with the numbers. These numbers don't lie. I'm using the same exact gear on all of them to test things out. And I think that wild are amazing. I mean, we already know that, right? We can see that from looking over there at everybody doing the Vortex boss. That's what I got, guys. Let me know if this helps. Let me know if this format helps you. And if you want to contribute to this, if you've got ideas for artifacts. Someone mentioned on Discord that when you have that one artifact that gives you a big boost in damage when you have a shield on, that this one would be a really good girl to play with it because she does insane AoE damage. I did a dedicated video on her already, but she also puts a shield on someone every time she does this ability and she does her ultimate. So she'll put a shield right on somebody, 10% of their max HP, and if they have that artifact on, all you got to do is place the person next to her, then they'll get that boosted damage. And those are good combinations. So those are the kind of things I want to know and take note of and start building out this list and making this into a real tier list. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Appreciate your time. Please subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you all in a video soon.